Ever wonder why some people seem to effortlessly rise to the top while others struggle despite working just as hard? It's not luck, and it's not just talent. It's something far more intentional, a concept that has remained hidden in plain sight, utilized by the world's most powerful individuals for centuries: the ability to shift identity at will. This is the secret weapon they've been trained to use from an early age, the ability to mold and reshape their identity to fit the success they want. Most people think identity is fixed, that who you are today is who you'll always be. But the elite, they know better. They understand that self-concept is fluid, that you can upgrade, refine, and reshape yourself at will until success becomes inevitable. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to do it. For the next 20 seconds, picture this: a world where what you believe about yourself isn't locked in stone. A world where the most powerful people, royalty, business moguls, cultural icons, aren't just lucky. They're using deliberate techniques to construct the identity that guarantees their success. They don't leave their self-image to chance. They engineer it. And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to change their habits without changing their identity. They say they want success. They set big goals. They hustle harder, but inside, they're still operating from an outdated self-image, and that's why they fail. Because no matter how much action you take, you will always revert back to the person you believe yourself to be. Until you change that, nothing sticks. From the moment certain children of the ultra-wealthy are old enough to understand, they're taught a very different lesson than the rest of the world. They learn that identity isn't given, it's constructed. They're immersed in affirmations, mental programming, and deep visualization techniques that reinforce a powerful truth: you can be whoever you decide to be. By the time they reach adolescence, they've already mastered techniques that allow them to step into any role effortlessly. Business leader, charismatic speaker, negotiation expert, master strategist. They don't just hope they'll be successful, they become the person who wins before they even take action. Meanwhile, the average person, they're stuck in a system that teaches them the opposite. They're told, you're either smart or you're not. You're either a natural leader or you're not. Some people are born for success, some aren't. That's the real divide between the ultra-successful and everyone else. Not just wealth, not just connections. A fundamentally different approach to identity. This isn't just theory. It's backed by science. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves that the more you reinforce a self-concept, the more your brain physically adapts to it. In other words, if you identify as a high achiever, your brain strengthens neural pathways that make high achievement natural. If you identify as confident, your brain rewires itself to make confidence effortless. If you identify as someone who always finds solutions, your mind literally gets better at problem solving. This is why the elite don't waste time on limiting beliefs. They've been trained to align their identity with the results they want. And once that's in place, everything else, actions, habits, external success, falls into place automatically. So here's where we start. Forget fake it till you make it. That's surface level. Instead, we're going deeper. You're going to construct your identity from the inside out so that success becomes second nature. Right now, identify the version of you that already has what you want. Who are they? How do they think? What beliefs do they hold? What actions feel normal to them? This isn't wishful thinking. This is a blueprint. Because once you know who you're shifting into, you can start reinforcing that identity until it's no longer a choice. It's just who you are. And that's where the game really changes. Most people go their entire lives reacting to who they think they are. They assume identity is something they were born with, something set in stone. But the elite, they design their identity. They build it, refine it, and reinforce it until success is inevitable. And in this part, you're going to learn exactly how they do it, step by step. See, if deep down you still see yourself as the same person, you'll keep making the same choices. You'll keep gravitating toward the same habits. And eventually, you'll fall back into the same old patterns. This is why most people try to change, but nothing sticks, because they never change the self-image that controls everything. The ultra-successful don't make this mistake. They reprogram their identity first, so that the right actions feel automatic. They know that your subconscious mind is always listening. Every thought, every belief, every self-description. It's all being recorded, reinforced, and turned into your reality. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm bad with money," your subconscious will make sure you stay broke. "I've never been confident." Your subconscious will find ways to prove that true. Success is hard for people like me. Your subconscious will sabotage you at every turn. On the other hand, if you program your mind with, "I always figure things out," your brain starts reinforcing that belief. If you tell yourself, "I'm a natural leader," you start acting like one without effort. If you repeat, "I thrive under pressure," you start handling challenges with ease. This isn't wishful thinking, this is deliberate mental programming. The elite use it constantly, through affirmations, visualization, scripting, and repetition, until their subconscious accepts the new identity as reality. And once that happens, everything changes. The world's most powerful people don't rely on motivation. They rely on conditioning, and they do it in 3 key ways. 1. They rewrite their internal script. The stories you tell yourself shape your identity. If you keep reinforcing a disempowering story, you'll keep living it. The elite override that script. They consciously rewrite their internal dialogue until their mind accepts a new, upgraded identity. So start here. Catch yourself when you use limiting language. Instead of saying, "I've always been bad at this," say, "I'm getting better at this every day." "I'm just not a natural leader." Say, "I'm becoming the kind of person people respect and follow." It seems simple, but the more you reinforce this shift, the more your brain rewires itself to match. 2. They use immersive visualization. The elite don't just visualize success, they immerse themselves in it. They don't just picture having wealth, power, influence, they feel it. They see themselves living as that person until it becomes second nature. This isn't daydreaming, it's mental rehearsal, and the science behind it, unshakable. Studies show that when you vividly imagine yourself performing an action, your brain fires the same neurons as if you were actually doing it. That means, if you practice seeing yourself as a confident, successful, high-achieving person every day, your brain starts accepting that as reality, and the more real it feels, the easier it is to step into that identity in the real world. 3. They reinforce their new identity through action. Here's where most people go wrong with manifestation. They think visualization alone is enough. But the elite, they reinforce their identity through action. Every time they act as if they already are that person, it solidifies the shift. They speak differently. They carry themselves differently. They make decisions from the future version of themselves, not the past. And over time, that new identity becomes who they truly are. Do this consistently, and you'll start feeling the shift. And once you do, everything else becomes effortless. The elite understand this. That's why they deliberately reinforce their new identities through advanced techniques like visualization, scripting, and deep mental rehearsal. They immerse themselves in the mindset of the person they are becoming until it feels natural. And in this part, you're going to learn exactly how to do the same. Ever tried to change something about yourself, but no matter how hard you push, you snap back to your old patterns? This happens because of identity lag. Your subconscious mind clings to the old version of you, like software running on outdated programming. So even when you try to upgrade your habits, your brain fights back. You self-sabotage. You feel like you're faking it. Sound familiar? That's because real transformation doesn't happen at the action level first. It happens at the identity level. Think about it. If you see yourself as someone who's bad at money, no budgeting system will fix that. If you believe you're just not confident, no amount of self-help books will change how you act, because your subconscious is wired to keep proving your identity right. The elite never let this happen. Instead, they use a three-step reinforcement system to lock in their new identity permanently. If you want to accelerate your transformation, you need to reinforce it from multiple angles. This is how the ultra-successful do it. Lock in the identity through repetition. Your subconscious mind learns through repetition. That means the more you repeat something, whether it's a belief, a behavior, or a self-image, the stronger it becomes. The elite use this to their advantage. They don't just say new affirmations once and forget them. They repeat them daily. They write them down. They act them out until they feel natural. Because when a thought is repeated enough, your brain accepts it as reality. So here's your first reinforcement tool: daily identity scripting. Every morning, write out a short statement of your new identity. Examples: I am a disciplined, focused, and powerful leader. I attract opportunities effortlessly because I am highly skilled and valuable. I am the kind of person who stays calm, decisive, and in control under pressure. At first, it might feel unnatural. That's normal. But stick with it, because the more your brain hears it, the more it rewires itself to match. Feel it in your nervous system. Most people fail at identity shifting because they only focus on thoughts. But thoughts alone aren't enough. The elite don't just think about their new identity, they feel it physically. They train their nervous system to experience success before it happens. How? Through deep embodiment practices. For 5 minutes a day, do this. Close your eyes and picture your new identity. Feel the emotions that version of you would feel. Confidence, certainty, power. Adjust your posture, breathing, and facial expression as if you are already that person. Why does this work? Because your nervous system responds to physical cues. If you stand, move, and breathe like a confident, high-status person, your brain starts believing it. Your body starts reinforcing it. And suddenly, you stop acting like that person. You become them. Here's the part most people skip. If you only repeat affirmations and visualize but never take action, your subconscious won't fully accept the new identity. Because real confidence comes from evidence. The elite know this. That's why as soon as they decide on a new identity, they act on it immediately, even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable. Because the moment you take action from your new identity, your brain starts saying, wait, maybe this is who I am. And once that happens, the shift becomes permanent. Every day, do one small thing that aligns with your new self-image. Do this daily. Because every time you act in alignment with your new identity, it gets stronger until one day, it's no longer something you're trying to be. It's just who you are. You're starting to see how identity shifting works. But there's a hidden force that keeps most people locked in their old patterns. And if you don't address it, no amount of affirmations, visualization, or even action-taking will fully transform you. What is it? Your subconscious resistance to change. It doesn't matter how much you want to shift into a more powerful version of yourself. If your subconscious sees that new identity as a threat, it will sabotage you every single time. Here's something nobody tells you about transformation. Your brain hates change, not because it wants to hold you back, but because it's designed to keep you safe. And to your subconscious, safe means familiar. That's why when you try to become more confident, your mind floods you with doubts. When you try to level up financially, you feel discomfort or guilt. When you try to break old habits, resistance kicks in. It's not because you're weak. It's because your subconscious is protecting you from the unknown. Even if your old identity is keeping you stuck, it's still what your brain knows. And your subconscious will always choose the known struggle over the unknown success, unless you reprogram it. That's what we're doing today. The ultra-successful don't let subconscious resistance control them. They expect it, they understand it, and they use specific techniques to neutralize it. You're about to learn those techniques so you can move forward without self-sabotage. Most people don't realize they have subconscious resistance at all. They just feel stuck in the same cycles, like something is holding them back, but they can't explain why. Motivated one day, unmotivated the next, but resistance isn't random. It comes from a deep-rooted belief conflict in your subconscious. Your old identity and your new identity are in a silent war. And until you resolve that war, your old identity will keep winning. Here's how to find your resistance. Ask yourself this: if I actually become this new version of myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? At first, you'll want to say, nothing, this change is good, but dig deeper. Your subconscious is holding on to something. Maybe it's a fear of outgrowing certain people in your life, a fear that success will bring more pressure or responsibility, a belief that you don't truly deserve what you're trying to create. Write it down, because once you expose the resistance, you can remove it. Once you find your subconscious resistance, you need to neutralize it. And the fastest way to do that? Make your new identity feel safe. Close your eyes. Imagine your current self and your new identity standing face to face. And they do it by following an unshakable identity formula that ensures every shift they make is permanent. So let's break it down. If you want to become someone new, you have to do more than just think differently. You have to wire it into your nervous system so that your transformation isn't something you do, it's something you are. This process has 3 key pillars. Cognitive reprogramming, the art of deliberately installing new beliefs. Behavioral conditioning, locking in habits that match your new identity. Environmental reinforcement, reshaping your surroundings to reflect your transformation. Let's start with cognitive reprogramming. Ever wonder why affirmations alone don't work for most people? It's because your subconscious isn't convinced. Your self-image is built on proof, not empty words. That's why the elite don't just repeat phrases in the mirror. They engage in mental scripting. They tell themselves a new life story, one where they already are the person they want to become. And they tell it with emotion, detail, and certainty. Instead of saying, I am confident, they visualize themselves stepping into a room with power. They feel the confidence radiating from their body. They see the reactions of others. They hear their own voice commanding attention. They make it so real in their minds that their subconscious accepts it as truth. And that's the trick most people miss. You don't become what you say, you become what you deeply believe. But belief alone isn't enough. That's where behavioral conditioning comes in. Your brain needs evidence that you are this new person. That means taking aligned action daily. Want to shift into the mindset of a millionaire? You don't wait until you're rich. You start making decisions like one now. Want to step into leadership? You don't wait for a title. You start acting like a leader today. Each time you take action that matches your new identity, your subconscious updates its programming. But there's one more piece: environmental reinforcement. Your surroundings must reflect the new you. If you're shifting into wealth, but you spend time with people who mock success, your brain will resist change. If you're developing a high-performance mindset, but your environment is full of distractions and chaos, your subconscious won't take the shift seriously. This is why the elite curate their environments. They surround themselves with symbols of success, high-level thinkers, and conversations that reinforce their identity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you integrate all 3 pillars, cognitive reprogramming, behavioral conditioning, and environmental reinforcement, your shift doesn't just happen, it locks in. At some point, your mind stops questioning, am I really this person? Because the answer becomes, yes, this is just who I am now. And that's when the shift is permanent. The biggest lie people believe? That change takes time. The truth? Your brain can rewire itself instantly if you know how to trigger it correctly. The elite don't waste years hoping their mindset will catch up with their goals. They understand that identity shifts happen in the split second when the brain experiences a powerful neurological trigger. What kind of triggers? The kind that force your subconscious to accept a new reality immediately. Think about the most defining moments of your life, the ones that shaped you. Maybe it was a time of extreme pain or extreme triumph. What do those moments have in common? They were charged with deep emotion. Your brain records anything tied to strong emotion as truth. It treats it as an undeniable part of your identity. This is why the elite don't just passively consume information. They seek out high-intensity emotional experiences that reinforce their new identity. They use deep visualization, immersive mental scripting, and even real-world experiences to inject their brain with moments of undeniable certainty. Example, a high performer who wants to develop unstoppable confidence won't just imagine being powerful. They'll create an experience that feels real. They might step into a room and command attention even if it's forced at first. They'll feel their pulse race, their voice project, their presence dominate. The key? Repetition. Do this enough, and your brain stops thinking, I am becoming confident. Instead, it concludes, I am confident. Your subconscious doesn't trust words alone. It needs proof. That's why one of the fastest ways to shift your identity is to manufacture proof fast. Example, let's say you're shifting into an identity of someone who is highly disciplined. Instead of saying, I am disciplined, you give your brain instant evidence. You wake up and immediately do one thing that a disciplined person would do. You repeat it daily, no matter what. You track every win, no matter how small. At first, your brain might resist, but after stacking enough small wins, the shift becomes automatic. This is just who I am now. The elite stack proof aggressively. Every action, no matter how small, is a data point that reinforces their new self-image. And once the brain has enough proof, there's no going back. If you want to force your identity shift at lightning speed, change your environment radically. Nothing signals the brain to evolve faster than stepping into a completely new world. Think about someone who suddenly moves to a high-level, high-expectation environment. At first, they might feel like an outsider, but within weeks, sometimes even days, their brain adapts to match the new standard. Their language changes, their energy shifts, their expectations rise. Why? Because their old identity can't survive in this new environment. The elite leverage this intentionally. They insert themselves into high-level rooms. They travel to places that stretch their self-image. They immerse themselves in the energy of who they want to become. At first, the shift feels forced, but quickly the brain catches up. And soon they're not just acting like a new person, they are a new person. At this point, you're beginning to understand how the elite shape their reality, not over years, but in moments. But here's the real question. How do they ensure the shift sticks? Because most people fall back into their old patterns. They get a glimpse of transformation, but then they sabotage it. Most people experience temporary transformation. They get a spark of motivation. They start shifting their identity up, but then they snap back. Why? Because the brain hates uncertainty. Even if your old identity was limiting, it was comfortable, familiar, safe. So the moment you start changing, your subconscious will fight back. And if you don't know how to counter this resistance, you will revert. The elite know this. That's why they don't just create identity shifts, they lock them in. Today, we're revealing how they do it. Start with burning the boats. If you give your brain an escape route, it will take it every time. That's why the fastest way to force your new identity to stick is to make it impossible to go back. History proves this. Think about ancient warriors who, upon arriving on enemy shores, burned their boats. Why? Because without an escape, they had no choice but to win. The elite do the same thing. If they commit to becoming a leader, They put themselves in positions where they must lead. If they commit to being a high performer, they take on challenges where failure is not an option. No safety net, no retreat. The brain adapts because it has to. The next step, make it costly to revert. Your subconscious will test you. It will try to drag you back to old habits, old behaviors, old patterns. But what if going back came with a heavy price? The elite engineer their lives so that reverting is more painful than evolving. They tie their identity shift to public accountability. If they say they're becoming someone new, they make sure everyone knows it. Create high-stakes consequences. If they fail to act like their new identity, they face a loss, financial, social, or personal. Surround themselves with people who reinforce their shift. If they revert, they lose access to those environments. When the cost of staying the same outweighs the cost of evolving, transformation becomes inevitable. Repetition is the language of the brain. If you want your new identity to stick permanently, you must repeat the belief until it becomes automatic. This is where the elite use mental scripting, writing and speaking their new identity daily to reinforce it, immersive visualization, experiencing their future self in vivid detail so the brain registers it as real, pattern recognition, spotting every moment where they act like their old self and immediately correcting course. They obsessively condition their new self-image until it becomes their default state. At that point, change is no longer a struggle. It's just who they are. But here's the problem. Most people will never escape their old identity, not because they don't want to, not because they don't try, but because they're blind to the hidden forces keeping them locked in place. These forces operate below the surface, unnoticed, unchallenged, and devastatingly effective. But today, we're dragging them into the light, and once you see them, you can eliminate them for good. Mental barrier. Number 1. The comfort of familiar struggles. People say they want change. They say they want to upgrade their lives, their mindset, their identity. But when they try, they self-sabotage. Why? Because struggle, even painful struggle, can be comfortable if it's familiar. If you've spent years believing you're not good enough, there's a part of you that has built an identity around that belief. And if you suddenly let go of that belief, who are you then? The brain hates uncertainty, so it clings to the struggles it knows, even if they're destructive. The elite overcome this by consciously replacing struggle with challenge. Instead of fighting battles that keep them stuck, they engage in battles that force growth. Example, instead of struggling with "I don't know if I'm good enough," they challenge themselves with "How can I become the best at this?" The first belief paralyzes you. The second belief activates you. And when your brain starts seeing struggle as a stepping stone instead of a cage, your transformation speeds up. Permanently. Mental barrier number 2, the invisible script controlling your actions. Most people think their decisions are rational. They're not. Every single choice you make is shaped by an invisible mental script, one that was written for you before you even knew it existed. This script comes from your upbringing, what you were taught to believe about yourself, your environment, what you saw reinforced around you, your past experiences, what your brain interpreted as truth. If your script says money is hard to make, guess what? You'll unconsciously avoid actions that lead to wealth. If your script says people like me don't become successful, you'll sabotage yourself the moment you get close to winning. This is why willpower alone isn't enough to shift identity. You have to rewrite the script. The elite do this by reprogramming their subconscious through deliberate mental conditioning. They use daily affirmations that counter old limiting beliefs, high-level mentorship to expose them to new perspectives, environment engineering to make their new identity the default choice. Once the script changes, their actions change effortlessly. Mental barrier number 3. The fear of outpacing others. This is a barrier nobody talks about. Deep down, many people fear surpassing their friends, family, or social circle. Because if they grow too much, too fast, they might lose connection, they might face judgment, they might be seen as different, so they hold themselves back, not consciously, unconsciously. And the result? They stay at a level of success that feels safe, even if it's far below their potential. The elite break this barrier by shifting their frame. Instead of thinking, if I rise, I'll lose people, they tell themselves, if I rise, I'll inspire others to rise with me. This simple shift destroys guilt and fear and replaces them with momentum. By now, you understand the hidden forces that keep people stuck. You know why most never escape their old identity, but knowledge isn't enough. Now, we install the mindset of the ultra-successful so deeply that it becomes your default mode of operation. This isn't about short bursts of motivation. This is about creating a permanent shift in how you think, act, and respond to the world. And to do that, we need 3 powerful identity-shifting techniques used by the elite every single day. Let's begin. What's the first thing you think about when you wake up? For most people, it's reactive. Ugh, I don't feel like getting up. What do I have to do today? I hope today isn't stressful. See the problem? They're starting the day from a place of reaction, not control. Now, what do the ultra-successful do instead? They prime their identity immediately, before the outside world can dictate their mindset. Example, before getting out of bed, they ask themselves, who am I becoming today? What's the first move my future self would make right now? How can I operate from power, not obligation? This instantly shifts them into an elevated state of mind. It sets the tone for every action that follows. The key? You must do this before checking your phone, before getting distracted, before anything else. Why? Because your first thought sets the trajectory for the rest of the day. Start sloppy and you'll operate at a lower level. Start intentionally and you'll move with clarity and power. The difference between an average performer and an elite one? Speed of state change. Here's what most people do. They feel sluggish, unmotivated, or doubtful, and they stay stuck in that state for hours, even days. Meanwhile, high-level performers interrupt low-energy states immediately. The rule is simple. The moment you catch yourself in a negative or passive state, shift within 3 seconds. How? Physical movement. Stand up, breathe deeply, change your posture. Verbal pattern break. Say something powerful out loud. Let's go. I'm built for this. Time to execute. Shift focus. Instead of thinking, I feel tired, think, what's the first action I can take now? The goal. Don't let low-energy thoughts linger. The longer they stay, the stronger they become. But if you shift within 3 seconds, you regain control of your mindset instantly. Most people let their day happen to them. The elite? They program the next day in advance. The technique is called nighttime mental scripting. It works like this. Right before bed, you spend just 2 minutes visualizing the next version of yourself already in action. See yourself waking up energized, moving with confidence. See yourself making bold decisions, handling challenges effortlessly. Feel the emotions of success, pride, certainty, momentum. Why does this work? Because your subconscious mind keeps working on what you last focus on before sleep. Instead of letting random thoughts dictate your future, you install the future version of yourself deliberately. Do this for 30 days and watch how naturally you start stepping into your new identity. At first, it might feel forced. You might even doubt whether it's working, but by the second week something shifts. You'll start catching yourself acting differently without even thinking about it. You'll notice moments where your old self would hesitate, overthink, or fall back into limiting habits, but now you move, you execute, you embody the version of you that once felt out of reach. This is the moment where the shift becomes real, But here's the trap most people fall into. They hit this breakthrough, and then they get comfortable. They stop reinforcing the shift, and within weeks their old patterns start creeping back in, slowly, subtly, until they're right back where they started. That's not happening to you, because now we're introducing a system that ensures this transformation becomes permanent. If you want lasting change, you need 3 reinforcement layers: repetition, making your new identity; unconscious environment, aligning everything around you; public commitment, burning the bridges to your old self. Let's break each one down. Success isn't about what you do once. It's about what you repeat until it becomes who you are. The elite drill their identity shifts into their nervous system through constant reinforcement. They don't visualize once. They do it daily. They don't affirm a new belief once. They program it until it feels natural. They don't just act successful when they feel motivated. They execute regardless of mood. This is how you move from conscious effort to automatic execution. So here's your challenge. For the next 90 days, act from your new identity every single day, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient, because every time you override your old programming, you weaken it. And every time you reinforce your new identity, you strengthen it, until one day you don't have to think about it anymore. It just is who you are. If your environment doesn't match your new identity, it will pull you back. That's why the elite ruthlessly curate their surroundings. They know that. The people they spend time with shape their beliefs. The conversations they engage in reinforce their mindset. The content they consume programs their thinking. So here's what you do. Audit your circle. Are the people around you reinforcing your old identity or your new one? If they're holding you back, limit your exposure. Upgrade your inputs. Stop feeding your mind low-level distractions. Instead, surround yourself with content, books, and voices that reflect the identity you're stepping into. Restructure your space. Design your environment to remind you of who you're becoming. Whether it's changing your workspace, your wardrobe, or the way you start your mornings, make your surroundings match your new reality. Because when everything around you is aligned, your identity shift becomes effortless. Step 3. Public commitment. Burning the bridges to your old self. The final step? Make your new identity non-negotiable. How? By making it public. The moment you declare your transformation to the world, something powerful happens. Your old identity loses its grip, because now there's no way back. The ultra-successful do this instinctively. They don't just decide in private, they announce their new direction. They take public actions that force them to stay accountable. They surround themselves with people who expect them to operate at a higher level. So here's your move. Find a way to publicly commit to your new identity. Tell someone you trust. Share your new standard with your team. Take an action that signals, "I am never going back." The more visible your commitment, the stronger your transformation. At this point, you have everything you need to lock in your transformation. But the final decision, that's yours. You can walk away from this video, let your old patterns reclaim their control, and keep living at the level you've always lived. Or you can commit, reinforce, and step fully into your new identity. No hesitation, no second guessing, just the version of you that was always meant to exist. By now, you've shifted your identity. You've reinforced it. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Transformation doesn't stop at identity shifting. It's just the foundation. What separates those who see some success from those who become unstoppable forces is their ability to leverage momentum. The elite understand that success isn't just about working harder. It's about stacking wins so that every victory fuels the next one, creating an unstoppable cycle. Most people plateau because they waste the energy of their breakthroughs. Not you. You're about to take that momentum and multiply it fast. Ever notice how some people seem to have success snowball in their favor? They start winning, and suddenly they're unstoppable. That's because of the momentum law. It states, the more you act from your new identity, the easier success becomes, until it feels effortless. Every time you take action aligned with your new self, you create a feedback loop. Action, confidence boost, bigger action, bigger result, more confidence. But here's the part most people don't realize. Momentum doesn't just work for you, it also works against you. If you hesitate, delay, or slip back into old habits, you kill your momentum, which is why the elite are ruthless about staying in motion. They don't let hesitation creep in. They act, they execute, they keep moving so that success becomes automatic. Your move, start tracking small wins. Every time you take action from your new identity, write it down. Every time you overcome resistance, acknowledge it. Every time you make progress, celebrate it, even if it's tiny. Why? Because your brain needs proof that you're winning. And the more proof you stack, the harder it becomes for doubt to ever creep back in. There's also one more reason the elite move so fast. It's because speed itself is an advantage. The longer you wait to execute an idea, the less likely you are to act on it. But when you move before hesitation sets in, you gain an edge most people never will. Want proof? Look at any top entrepreneur, industry leader, or high achiever. They don't sit on ideas for months, overanalyzing every detail. They move, they test, they adapt in real time. Because in the game of success, speed beats perfection. So from this moment on, adopt a new rule. If an idea or opportunity aligns with your new identity, act on it immediately. Don't wait. Don't second guess. Move. Because when you train yourself to act without hesitation, you bypass the doubts that hold most people back. And that's how you create unstoppable momentum. But there's one final piece to this puzzle. It's called the success echo. It's the idea that when you change one major aspect of your life, it sends ripple effects through everything else. For example, when you upgrade your mindset, you naturally start making better financial decisions. When you develop discipline in your work, you find it easier to stay consistent in fitness. When you improve your confidence, your relationships transform without forcing it. This is why identity shifting is so powerful. It doesn't just improve one area, it creates a domino effect that lifts your entire life. Which means the key to exponential success isn't trying to improve everything at once. It's about identifying the highest impact shift and going all in. That one shift will start cascading into every other area automatically. So right now, ask yourself, what's the one shift that, if mastered, would make everything else easier? Find it, prioritize it, attack it relentlessly, and watch how quickly the rest of your life follows.